Welcome, college basketball fans, to the Full Court Press Podcast with LT and Sammy D. This is the podcast that brings you legendary stories from college basketball's golden era and dives in deep with a current analysis of today's game. Get ready for the most energetic and entertaining college basketball podcast around. Let's get it.
Hello and welcome to another Full Court Press, a college basketball coaches show simply powered by the Full Court Network. Luke Taylor going one-on-one with our next guest. If you have not, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. We appreciate 5-star reviews. It makes me happier, and Sam's nicer to me, so we appreciate this. The summer is always interesting. It's been a challenge in August because this is the new offseason for college basketball coaches, the whole 3-day window they get off of a break. Practices are pretty much shut down for people getting ready for the college basketball season, which I think is like 92, 93 days away. But we got a great one. Actually told him we talked to his head coach from college before yesterday. We've had him on the show and stuff like that, Coach Horn. But we got Troy State, or I guess Troy State. Is it Troy or Troy State?
I think it's Troy.
Yeah. Okay, Troy.
For guys like you that understand basketball, Troy State, that works as well.
TSU, baby. TSU. Yep. But we got Adam Howard of the Trojans. Welcome to the show, Coach.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me on.
Oh, it's been an honor and a pleasure. We're really excited. We've had Coach Cross on the show. Big fan of Noah SID over at you guys. And, you got some big shoes to fill, but we're excited. First-time head coach. I guess, what was the first thing you did when you accepted the job?
Oh, that's man, thinking back on it now, I think the thing that I remember the most was the way that athletics director Kyle George put it to me. He called me and he said, "Hey, man, you only get to hear this for the first time once in your career. How would you like to be a head coach?" I thought that was pretty impactful in the way that he put it. And so to get it from, to hear that from a guy who I've known for a long time, and then just kind of being mindful of me getting that call for the first time. I think that's something that'll always stick with me. But I think the first thing I probably did was just call my wife and talk to her about it, and
recruit her to come to Troy with you.
She was fired up. She was excited. We had been here prior, and I'm sure we'll get to that at some point. But we with our kids and our family dynamic, moving around a little bit, to be able to kind of put our career in our own hands for a few years at least, and raise our kids in a small town, small community as loving and as welcoming as Troy. It was a no-brainer for her, so I didn't have to recruit her too much.
Yeah. Well, it's obviously, and so what's so unique about Troy? I mean, we've had Coach Cross on the show. They had a great year. He did a really good job there. We know Ben Fletcher well. Coach Fletch is a dude, played at Troy, as you know, and is probably a Troy legend. Like, what really attract you? Was it because it's not because it's the first time head coach? I know you've had other opportunities. You're known as an elite recruiter, offensive mind. I mean, coach under Will Wade, obviously, really good pedigree in that sense, and many other great coaches like some guy named Fred Hoiberg. Never heard of him. The general, or now he's simply known as the senator. Like, what was the main thing that attracted you to Troy?
I think just, one, being able to take over for a guy like Coach Cross in the sense of where he has this program right now. I'd been here and had an opportunity, through Phil Cunningham to be on his staff, where we won a conference championship, and I did it alongside working with Ben Fletcher. So you're right about Ben in the sense that one of the most quality human beings you'll ever get to know.
Awesome.
He's the best. He's a great human, and having a huge impact everywhere he's been, not only on the floor, but off the floor with how his relationships with the players. I saw that firsthand. So, being able to take over a program that's, consistently won in a tough league, and there's an expectation and there's fan support, and there's a lot of, support from, your athletics department and your administration, to be successful at every sport. And if you look across the board at Troy right now, and what baseball has done and what football has historically done, what Coach Rigsby has done, in her time here, now becoming the all-time winningest coach. So Troy's winning at a high level at a lot of places, and then for us, just kind of slowing down a little bit in terms of our family. Troy's a small town. We can get anywhere in the community within 5 minutes, and my kids are at the age now where they're involved in a lot of things. And my wife, man, what a blessing she is, because living in Raleigh, North Carolina, where we were in Cary and having to go across town 25 minutes to my son's basketball practice. Then my daughter's got dance 40 minutes across town and in Apex. And so for her and for them, to kind of be in a little smaller community and maybe find their people and their friends a little easier at a place where, there's not as many options for schools and athletics teams and different things like that. We just wanted them to be able to have a little bit of a normal life as possible for the situation that we're in, and which is coaching. And it's not easy. Their dad's asked them to move quite a few times in the last few years, but they've been really supportive, and it's been a great opportunity, and one that I didn't have to think too hard about when given the opportunity.
Yeah. So doing some research on yourself, I always like going to Wikipedia because you find some weird shit. But I need you to confirm. It said, this is the first I've ever seen on Wikipedia, so this is kind of a rarity. It says you were born in 1984 or 1985. It gets better. And then age 40 or 41.
Well, first off, I didn't know I had a Wikipedia page, so that's pretty unique. Thanks for enlightening me on that. Not somebody that's got to spend much time researching themselves. But I was born in 1985, and 41. Believe it or not, on this day, August 6th, 41 years ago. So today is my birthday, but it's the 85 was when I was born, and it's 41. So
I'm going to tell you, this is going to air tomorrow, which is Friday.
Okay.
And you and I have even more something in common other than good looks and charm.
That's right.
My son turns 11 today. Jack Stevenson Taylor was born this day, August 6th. My third child. I have July 9th, July 29th, and August 6th. So we're broke and we're busy. That's last right. Month.
Yeah. So the summers wear us out too. We have a July birthday, my birthday, and August birthday. My daughter's is later in this month. So, and then all our nephews and nieces are around this time too. So we have a lot in common because we're broke as well and extremely busy. But happy birthday to your son as well, man. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, happy birthday to you, man. That's awesome, dude. That's awesome. Thank you for spending some time with me. I really appreciate it. Do you want me to sing for you?
No, thanks. We're good. I don't need that. I know it's
me.
Yeah, beautiful voice, but we'll save everybody that time.
So I like your coaching staff. Okay. You have some connections. You actually have a college teammate who Coach Horn, your head coach at Western Kentucky, told me to check Winchester's senior and junior year stats, especially from 3-point shooting. He was a ball player.
He's a stud,
stud.
What made him great as a player was his competitive edge. And it's funny, it's unique. Coach Horn brought that up because we were sitting in here one night at midnight, the staff, and we were going through all the players in the portal and different things. And I said, what I really want is somebody like you. So find me a guy like you. And he pulled up his numbers and he ran them against this year's portal class. And the only guy that had the same numbers as him from his senior year was the kid at Iowa State, Milan, that ended up at Kentucky. So I wouldn't have been able to get Anthony in today's day and age, and probably, I think when we played, allowed fans to really appreciate who he was, because I'm not sure he could have afford to have stayed at Western Kentucky. He would have made a lot of money, but
absolutely,
he's a great player, and as good of a player as he was, he's that in an assistant, just diligent and work capacity and competitiveness and recruiting, and then just his ability to connect with guys on and off the floor, reminds me of who he was as a player. And we've been somebody I've known since I was 18 and trust and know that, he wakes up, to be successful every single day, because I watched it. I witnessed it for 4 years or, for 2 years when we were together. And then, I've watched and followed his career, and he's done a great job at everywhere he's been. And we're fired up to have been able to get Anthony and his family to Troy.
Is it tough to especially with assistants, you move so much? I mean, you look at your career, you're at NC State for a year, Nebraska for 3, South Alabama for 4, Troy for 2, then, before that. Is it tough in this today's day and age with, everything, just so many moving parts, and recruiting's different than it was, even 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago? Is it tough putting together the staff you want? I mean, I know that kind of sounds like a backhand slap to maybe an assistant or two, but is it tough to put together a staff in this day and age?
I think I think the thing that I would say about it is it's probably not going to go the way you expect it to go. When you first get an opportunity, when people have families or they have moved, you have great relationships with people and friends and guys you want to work with. There may be a guy or two that, once you first start dabbling in conversations with them, there's some interest on both sides, but then whether they go back and talk to their family about it, their wife and kids, and they're just like, what, man, my kids like it here. I'd love to be there, but it just doesn't make sense, and I've had those opportunities and same thing that my wife and I had to have those conversations. It's probably, I wouldn't necessarily say it's, really difficult. I think depending on where you're at and the resources you have, can play a factor in that too. But the one thing I would say is you have to expect and have a bigger list than maybe you initially want to have going into it, because it's probably not going to go the way you expect it to, when you first get the opportunity to start building your staff.
Yeah. So Winchester was your 36th pick.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We kind of kicked that can. He was my last hire, I think. So, no, he was a guy that was in transition and I kind of knew the opportunity was approaching me. I started talking to him a little bit about it and thankful that it worked out.
Yeah. And I like your staff, different backgrounds, some Southern influence, which I like with some of these coaches. Winchester came from K-State. We're big, Coach Tang fans. Obviously that didn't go well in the end for them, but, obviously a very good team and what have you. Let's talk about your roster. What I love with a lot of programs is it's like the Coach Gillespie at Tarleton State, and even when he was at other schools, wouldn't release his roster till like the day before the first game. You know, it's a little bit different, right? It's a little bit more fluid now because there's teams that still need players.
It's very different and very fluid. Yeah. And we've kind of, like, we announced the kid yesterday, Kawhi Pacheco. I think we had Kawhi signed early May, and watched him play his whole NBB season and postseason and make a run for a championship. And we were watching him like he was, every day, hoping that, he made it to campus. He had some bigger schools messing with him, but we just released him yesterday. No reason for that other than the fact that, I think it's just, different today, and some people may look on paper and say, hey, they've still got some work to do. I've got people text me every day, hey, it looks like you still need players. Well, that's not necessarily the case. We've got.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I had something just popped up. I thought I lost you. Yeah, that may not necessarily be the case. We're sitting here and we could potentially take one more guy. And we're, to your point, we're sitting here trying to decide on whether or not, we fool around with what's going on, or look to take a young guy. But we certainly, are actively looking and, hope to, finalize everything, here in the next, week or two. And so, but we've, it's a lot different. And especially when you take over for, a guy that had a lot of success, and that opportunities, come. He did a great job being able to retain guys, and he graduated several players, and then he had, I think 4 guys move on to higher levels, which is what we want to do. We want to be able to get guys in here and make this the best opportunity that they have to put them in position to, to cash in and to play at the level that they all desire to play at. And, it's going to look different year in and year out. And like we tell everybody, when we recruit them, we've got guys that have transferred 3 times in 3 years and 4 in 4 years. And, and it may happen again, now that there's 5 years, but we want everybody to look back and on their college experience and say, hey, man, that year in Troy was the best experience I had. And so we'll work really hard to make that happen for these guys and then hopefully put them in position to, have good conversations about coming back or moving on and get to where they want to be.
So what you're saying is LSU has more than 4 or 5 players?
I believe so. Yeah, I think he's kind of at the point now where he's just gonna make everybody sweat it out and release it all once it's all said and done. I think he's probably got a few tricks up his sleeve. I wouldn't count against him to have a a really good team.
Getting to know him on a personal note, and and Coach Vern, who obviously and then Heath Stroyer on a personal note too. We've had him on the shows, on other shows multiple times. And I love social media. I don't know how active you are or not. I've kind of taken it down this summer, the temperature down, just because it's like it can make you go nuts. But it's funny, like people are like, "Oh, Will Wade doesn't know what he's doing," and I'm just like, we're just it's like Sam and I are just laughing because you know him personally,
right?
It's like, do you really think he has 4 players on his team?
Yeah, no, I don't know. Specifically all the players.
But he has more than
I was
4.
just with him last week. My family and I were in Destin, and he has a condo at a place that we got a place at, and he and his wife and daughter were there, and we spent a few nights talking, and he's in a lot better shape than people would believe.
Oh, so I love it.
Yeah, he's going to be okay. The Tigers will be competing at a high level this year, and Will is always going to have a team that is in position to compete nationally, and so for people that are saying he doesn't know what he's doing, that's to your point, it's pretty comical.
Yeah. It's just go on social media. If you want to feel really angry and depressed, go on social media. If you want to feel better about yourself, go on social media. It's a win-win.
Yeah. I learned a long time ago, man. I don't do a lot with it. I'm probably one of these coaches that been through a lot, and when you go through some stuff, you really don't care what anyone has to say anymore. You just try to do the best you can, and put yourself and your team in position to be successful and win, and stay off that stuff, because I've seen it. There's days where they say good things, and there's days they say awful things, and you just can't live in that world.
Yeah, 100%. Or you can just be the head coach of Kentucky. It's a lose-lose. But exactly. So let's talk about your roster, okay? Is there you've had some off-season workouts. Any kind of surprises? Anybody that we should look out for?
I think everybody, might be pretty well known at this point. We've took a lot of guys with some experience. So, I think guys are kind of maybe who they are at this point. Our hope and challenge is to get them to be the most efficient they've been in their career to this point, and try to make it all work. But when I got the job, Coach Cross, reached out. We talked, the first day or the next day, and he said, "Hey, man, you need to keep Carrington Keel. He's a great, locker room culture guy," and he couldn't have been, any more right about that. We're so fortunate that Carrington wants to be at Troy, wants to, graduate from Troy. He does a lot of really good things. He played about 16, 18 minutes last year, was 6th man on the team that, obviously had a ton of success, and probably could have, been just as fine or had just as good of a role in 24, 26 minutes. They were just really good. But Carrington's been great, and we look forward to him having a big jump for us this year. Jacoy Hutchison's been awesome. We only had 9-10 guys here all summer. We took some internationals that it just didn't work out for them to be here the whole summer. But Jacoy is a guy that got recruited at a little bit higher level. Started out at George Washington and then went to Longwood last year. He's been awesome. His maturity, his approach. I really expect him to have a big year for us. Kawhi Pacheco is a point guard that we brought in from Brazil. We expect him to have a major impact. Someone sent me something earlier, after we announced him, they were calling him the Brazilian Braden Smith. I don't think he's quite that, but his poise and his savviness and the way that he plays the game, I think our fans and people are going to be excited about him. We expect him to have a major impact from day one. Robert Davis was a kid we took from Old Dominion, who was preseason player of the year last year. The season before that, he made 116 threes on a ton of volume. But just after being at Nebraska and then being at NC State the past year, where we had a guy like Paul McNeil who set a school record for made threes. Was part of a program in Nebraska where shooting was, the foundation in a lot of it. So having a guy that can make shots, we've got to get him more efficient and taking quality shots and getting good looks. But we expect Rob to be able to space the floor and, be able to create some opportunities for other players with just him being out there. Sam Walters, a kid we've obviously, everyone knows Sam. He's been at Alabama, Michigan, SMU. Same thing for him. He's got to make a jump, and he could have gone to Power 4, still this go around. But I think he decided he wanted to go to a place where he can have an impact and get his career back with having 2 more years. And we're going to need more from Sam other than just his shooting. With his size at this level, we're going to really hold him accountable to rebound the basketball and do some of those things. I joke with him all the time. I think he's the only 6'10" guy in college basketball last year that didn't make a free throw. And so we're going to be on him to do some things he's never done in the past and hope that, he can become the player that everybody knows him to be. And, and then, there's several other guys that Willie Piggott's a freshman that we're really excited about from Tampa. He's got an unbelievable motor. He's tough. I mean, there's days that you come in and if you didn't know our team and you asked, who was one of these older guys, you would think it's Willie because he just, he stands out, with his physicality and his motor. And so, we like our group. I'm probably leaving some guys off, but they're, they've been fun to coach. We've got a pretty good mindset in who we want to be. Obviously taking over for a program that's won 2 straight regular season championships, 2 straight
no pressure
tournament championships. Yeah,
no pressure.
No pressure, but I think there's a little bit of a standard and reputation for what Troy means to the Sun Belt to this point. And everybody knows that Coach Cross and his staff, had a great base and discipline and toughness, and it won. And you look at this league, it's last year there was. I think South Alabama was right there at the top of the league to maybe tie or split for them, but just didn't work out. The year before, there's a 4-way toss. I mean, there's great coaches, good players in this league, and the margin of victory is so short. And so we talk about winning in the margins, and what that takes. It doesn't take any talent to win in the margins, and so all the little things and that Coach Cross and his staff hung their hat on. We're going to try to be about those same things and put ourselves in position to make a run at this thing in year 1 if we're fortunate enough to, but just work and compete every day.
Yep, absolutely. I totally believe that. We're excited for you. So we're going to do a little thing called the shot clock, kind of quick and painless. It's always gone over, but 1-word answers. If it's a story, go with it. If you want to say more than 1 word, you can. We've had coaches actually listen and really do 1 word on the funniest recruiting story, which is, I don't know how, that's whatever. So, all right. So really easy and painless. Give me your biggest coaching influence.
My high school coach, Mike Flynn.
Okay. Nice. One thing you took away from Coach Hoiberg and Coach Wade that you will implement this year and going years as a head coach? Yeah,
Coach Hoiberg, the structure, the way the day was planned out. I'm going to take a lot from him. So this is going to be one of those long-winded. We're going to run out on the shot clock here. But, Coach Hoiberg will have a ton of influence on our day-to-day, the way we play. I was so fortunate to be around him and Nate Linzer and Ernie Ziegler, guys that have been high-level coaches at a lot of places. So the structure, the security and who he is, Coach Hoiberg allowed us all to coach and make mistakes, grow as a coach. And then Coach Wade, the relationship piece. I haven't seen anyone spend as much time with his players as him to make sure they're in the right mindset to play and keep guys, filtered from distractions. So, going into this opportunity, having, to be able to come from working for those 2 guys, I think it's a pretty good balance for me.
Awesome. Now, you talked a little bit about the Sun Belt, but I want you to give me 1 word to describe the Sun Belt men's basketball.
Gauntlet.
Gauntlet. That's 2 syllables too.
Yeah.
That's good. I like it. Okay. Of the 43 points you scored in college, which one is the most memorable?
Gosh, I don't remember them all. I don't remember them. There was a running joke though at one point. I was leading the team in points per minute played. I wasn't getting the chance to play much, but when I got in, I got fouled and I understood we were in the bonus. I could get to the free throw line and try to score. It was funny. Anthony was joking the other day. My kids were asking about something, and I told him it was my Dirk Nowitzki year, 41st birthday, right? And so my son's 10. He was like, "Who was number 10?" I said, "Coach Winchester was number 10. This would be your A-Dub year." But I don't know. He never made it to the NCAA tournament. And so my son was
cool.
laughing, and Anthony yelled out that I scored 9 points in my career. So to learn that I scored 43, I'll have to update my family and that I scored.
I mean, that's what it said on Wikipedia. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think I even added it up, but and Wikipedia could be completely off because it's usually self-directed.
I'm glad Synergy doesn't go back that far to be able to see all my free throw attempts at the end of the games.
Well, it's all right. It's all right. One rule you would change in college basketball, either on the court or off the court?
Quarters.
Okay. Yeah, that's usual. That's probably been the most picked is quarters.
Sure.
Okay. Name me one coach, head coach, either former or current, that you'd love to have lunch with that you've never met, and why?
Oh, it's a good one. So many guys that
and they're going to pay for it too.
Any sport,
and the head coach is paying for it. He's going to treat you, so you can go big if you want.
I'm a big Kirby Smart guy. I know that may not be popular here in Alabama, but I'd like to learn. I'd like to sit and talk to him.
You better watch your back, man.
Yeah, exactly. I just think a guy like him that played at a high level, in the SEC as a defensive back, then you look like guys like Kirby and I look alike. For him to be able to, be a DB in the SEC, he's got some stuff to him, and obviously running that program at a high level.
Yep, that's a good one. I like that. And non-basketball too, which is kind of cool.
Sure.
All right, last one I'm going to ask you. Funniest recruiting story?
Oh gosh. Funniest, man. I don't know that you can call any of them really funny. They've all got their own little twists and turns, and some of them are painful, some of them are fun when you get them. I'm gonna have to think about this one for a second. Look and think back to some of the most recent ones we've gotten. I don't know that this one's funny, but the one that keeps coming to my mind is when I first got to Nebraska, we had Keontae Johnson on campus. Mm-hmm. This one's painful. This makes you cry in a different way, but he was just getting clear from his heart stuff from the time at Florida. And it came down to us and Kansas State and those guys. And I think Coach Hoiberg's relationship and history with, all the hard stuff that he had gone on, he understood that process. The family was comfortable with his return to play, being around somebody that has to, kind of go through the same thing. Coach is 100% paced, and Keontae, has a defibrillator. So getting a guy like that, at that point in our career at Nebraska, we're trying to get things turned. They blocked him from coming to Nebraska. We weren't able to enroll him in school. He goes on to Kansas State. They end up beating us. I think he has one of the most efficient 25-point games that I've ever seen. And then he ends up leading his team to the Elite Eight. So that was one that, when I think back of the time, I don't have too many funny ones because I think when you get them, they're all fun. But I think the ones that you remember the most are the ones that you can't get for one reason or the other.
All right, we're going to change this. This is going to be the official Coach Howard question. The most painful or memorable, and not in a positive manner, recruiting story. It's kind of like talking to Tad Boyle about give us one loss that haunts you. He's like, I need a six-pack for that one. It's oh God.
Yeah, that's the one. I think you could tie that into that was one that just was I just gotten a chance to go from South Alabama to Nebraska, and I was going to be asked to help do some of the recruiting and to be able to get a guy like that on campus, and we felt really good about it. I'll never forget sitting, out in the lobby of the hotel, and Coach Weber called and said, "Hey, come out here." And he just gotten word from, the AD administration we weren't going to be able to take him, and to be able to go in and sit with that family and say, "Hey, we wish you well. It's not going to be here." And there was a lot of tears, at that point, in the conversations because he was such a good kid and such a great family. Yep. And then to watch him go on and lead those guys to the, to the Elite Eight along with Marcus Noel and several other guys. Yep. That one's the one. That's the most, recently the most memorable one, and both, just painful and regrettable, but happy for him.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So I want to finish up. Same usually finish. So how excited should the Trojan faithful, fans, boosters, alumni be for year one of the Coach Howard and staff era?
I think very excited. First off, we've got a bunch of guys that fit this community and fit Troy. It's been, kind of waiting for these guys to mess up, something to bad happen. We haven't really had any issues. So we've got great people, and I think you have to learn to, have a group of guys you can lose with first before you can win with, and so we'll guys that can be extremely consistent throughout the season. I think we got a talented group. I think we have a team that can, compete in the top half of the league in year one. I need them to be patient with me, as a first-year head coach. But I, like you said, we get a good staff. Those guys around me are going to help put us in position to be really successful. But, we need them to come to Trojan Arena. We got a tough schedule. It hadn't been released yet, but I get in my first head coaching opportunity against Frank Martin on opening night. A guy that exactly. I don't sleep at night thinking about all the offensive rebounding they're going to be doing that night, and how hard it's going to be to get the ball to the paint.
They're going to be physical.
And he's got some guys that he returns, and the more they're around Coach Martin, the more they take on his personality. So we're going to have our hands full from night in and night out from the, in the non-conference, and then once we get into league play, everyone knows how tough and competitive this league is. But long story short, our fans should be really excited. We got a bunch of guys that fit the way we want to play, talented. We've got great length and good size, pretty athletic and skilled and can shoot the basketball. So hopefully we'll have a very good year one but with everything that's going on campus right now and all the winning, I think our fans will be here to support us and continue to support their team and their community.
Yep. Well, Coach, you're going to stick on for one more second till we upload. Thanks so much. Check out the Troy Trojans, aka Troy State University in Troy, Alabama. The Trojans. It's going to be a good first year for Coach Howard and staff, and we're excited. And Sunbelt basketball is just awesome. Underrated and awesome. So thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Hopefully next week we'll be back with another show. If not next week, the week after. And hopefully Sam will join us after his summer hiatus, having a little bit too much fun on his side. But thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. And we'll be back on the Full Court Press, a college basketball coaches show.